Alright, so I'm gonna build a nice desktop humidor, and I'm gonna build it out of walnut and maple. And right here I'm just getting my bandsaw blade set up so I can resaw some wood. I found this to be the easiest way to set my fence. Just checking the measurement here to make sure it's what I'm looking at to do. And so the carcass, the main part of the box is going to be maple, and I'm going to use the walnut as the top and bottom, and also I'm going to do some dovetail splines. So here I'm just setting the bandsaw for the maple to resaw. And just resawing the other piece of maple. And I'm running the maple through the planer here to take care of that, because I'd already jointed the other sides. So I'm just planing it down to size there and getting the rough edges down smooth to the correct thickness. And the box is going to be done with the miter joints. So I'm using my table saw here to cut the 45-degree angles. And I'm going to use the domino right here to domino the miters together. And this alone, I'm sure, would have been strong enough for the miter joints. But like I said, I wanted to accent it with the walnut. And as you'll see at the end, you'll see it turned out really well. I'm really happy with it. And here I'm just gluing up the box. Get all the clamps on. And I left that to dry probably, oh, that was in the evening time, so it was the next evening, so about 24 hours. And I had to build up this little jig here for these dovetail splines. It's a real simple jig to build. Hardest part of that was probably just making sure I'm getting the dovetails in the correct position. Not so much the outer dovetails, but getting it centered on the center of the box. And then here I'm doing the actual dovetail keys, and you run it through and then cut it with the cut it down to size with the table saw. And then what I would do is I'd go back and make some more dovetail keys on the same piece of wood. And here I'm gluing the spines in, and it was a tight fit, so I had to get the closest thing to me, which wasn't a hammer. But that channel locks work just fine. And once I get all these glued in, let it dry, I'm gonna come back with a flush trim saw, and I'm gonna cut them down fairly close to the box. Didn't want to get too close because I didn't want to scrape or leave any saw marks on the box itself that I'd have to come back and sand them out. So a fairly easy process. And if y'all remember, if you followed me on the YouTube shorts, you'll see that I'd actually made the box too big for the piece of walnut that I was going to use for the top and bottom. So luckily I found a piece that had similar grain on there, and I had just enough that I could glue a couple pieces together to be the same thickness that I needed. And like I said, luckily the grain wasn't 100% match, but it was pretty close. And after that dried, I got my biscuit joiner out, and I'm gonna glue those two pieces together. I had multiple lines on there, so that was just trying to figure out which lines I needed to put a biscuit at. And now I'm just gonna put those biscuits in there and glue them together. I'll clamp them up. In this instance, I am just using the biscuits as for alignment, because I could not afford to take very much off on this as far as having to rejoint the faces. It needed to be the thickness that it was, because this had to be enough for the top and the bottom. The bottom ended up being thinner than I wanted it to be, but I had no choice because this is all the walnut that I had left. And now I'm going to resaw the piece of walnut so I can have a piece for the top and a piece for the bottom. And you might catch a little glimpse here, and I was afraid this was going to happen. Where I resawed it at was right there where the biscuits were. So you might see a little piece right, you could barely see it. So I did have to come back and cut just a little bit more off of what was going to be the top. On the bottom, it didn't really matter because it was going to be covered up by the Spanish cedar anyways, but I did have to get that off the top. So this is the bottom piece that I'm gluing on right now. Clamp that up and let it dry for about 10 minutes, and then I take the clamps back off again and glue the top on. And then I'm going to put the clamps all back on and then let that sit overnight. And like I said, took the clamps off, and now I'm gluing the top on. And then I'm going to put all those clamps right back on again. The next day I come back and using the flush trim bit to get any pieces that were just slightly hanging over. Like I said, it wasn't much because I just barely had enough of this walnut to fit this the carcass of it. Once I get that done, I put the round over bit on, and I rounded over all the edges. I also rounded over the corners, but I don't think I got video of that. I kind of came back and did that as an afterthought. And now I normally do this on the table saw, cutting the lid off, but I really like this new bandsaw I've got, and the Resaw King blade has been really good to me. So I went ahead and gambled and did it on there, and it turned out pretty good. Here I'm rounding over the edges of the top and the lid, and then the top of the box. Just to kind of give it like a little shadow line whenever it closes. and I'm also doing the inside top on the box and the lid. I probably could have just done this with sandpaper as far as doing the inside, but you know, I was already there, so why not? Later on, I would have to come back with the chisel and square those edges up on the inside, because whenever you put the veneered Spanish cedar in there, it just wouldn't have quite lined up good with those rounded edges in there. So it wasn't hard to do, though. You just do that. Here I'm building the cigar baskets. There'll be 3 of them in this. I've got videos of this where I've shown how to make these. I normally make them for the cabinet humidors, and with those there's usually like an angle, more or less just to help display them or whatever. But since these are going to be inside the desktop humidor, there's nothing to display, so I just made them regular rectangle and flat. Putting the slats on the bottom. And the closest thing near me that I could use as a spacer was a pencil. So you'll see here in a moment, I'm using the pencil as a spacer so I get the slats evenly spaced. And here in a moment, when I put the last one on, it's going to be too big, so I'm going to have to take it over to the table saw and rip it down a little bit so it'll fit the bottom of the basket there. Just going to get a little mark so I know where to cut it at. And here I am. Get my air hose out of the way. All right, simple cut. Space it with the pencil, glue it, and pin it, nail it down. And this box is going to be complete. And like I said, I did 2 more of these. And now I'm putting the veneered Spanish cedar on the inside. I did cut miters on these as well. And that way they kind of all fit together like a puzzle on the inside. I'll take that piece and clamp it down. I'll let that set up for a little while, probably a couple hours, and then I'll come back and do the other side. Put some more clamps on there, and I'll let this set up for a couple hours. And I'm going to come back, and since I don't like to let wood go to waste or anything, I had some strips that were cut up for other cigar baskets, and they were already at the correct thickness. So I'm just basically going to cut, or no, they're already strips, so they're not full strips. As you can see, I'm just sliding them in. I believe it took like 4 on each side or whatnot. And you'll see it's not going to be totally even at the top, but that's okay because I come back later on, and I don't believe I got it on camera, but I used my box plane to get them all down to even height. And of course, got to clamp those up as well. And like I said, you can see in the corner right there, they're not even, but they will be once I plane them down. right, and now I'm doing the bottom, and once again I had these extra strips laying around, so instead of just cutting up a whole nother piece, I went ahead and used these, and as you can see, it's coming together really nice. It's kind of hard to see where the lines are, and so I did that last piece like that, so this piece that goes in this slot had to be cut down to the correct width. And this is giving you an idea right here how it's going to look. Gonna put the finish on there, and I use teak oil on here first, and after about a week it seemed like it had cured up pretty well, so I came back and put shellac over the top of it, and that definitely gave it a better sheen. And there again, you'll see the pictures at the end of the video. Teak oil penetrates down into the wood, so that's why I like to use that, whereas shellac is not really going to penetrate. It's just going to be more of a protectant. Here I'm marking for the hinges, and I'm not going to get a lot of this either for some reason. I forgot to cut the camera on, I guess. So you're not gonna be able to see me actually put the hinges on, so I apologize for that. But you do get to see me mark them out. And there's what it looks like with the hinges, and also put the chain on there so the lid wouldn't go all the way back. As you can see right there too, where the top of the veneered Spanish cedar is, you can see I planed it down. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video, and here's some pictures to show how it looked after I put the shellac on. It came out super nice. I'm not sure how many cigars it's gonna hold. I haven't tested or anything, but it's going to hold quite a few, well over 100. So again, if you like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Leave me some comments, let me know how I did.